Hi, I'm Anne Bowditch. I'm author of The Energy of Anxiety, and this is the third in my anxiety release series, Confronting Negativity to Stop Anxiety. Just a reminder to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell so you can receive updates. So negativity is thrown at us all day long. And the one thing it really does is it makes us feel bad. It gets us sucked into that negative energy unless we decide to do something about it. So where does that negativity come from? We're going to cover these in a bit more detail, but we've got the family and friends, the people that really should be building our positivity. Sadly, it's not always the case. Social media, it's a big focus for negativity nowadays. And the news, which comes in all sorts of formats. We've got the TV and the radio, but we've also got loads of other formats, especially again social media. And colleagues as well, and also ourselves. So let's look at these in a bit more detail. Early life negativity is huge in terms of anxiety, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about life and all aspects of life. And I've done a separate video on beliefs, so I'm only touching on this. But we form many of our beliefs before we're 7 years old. Just contemplate that for a moment. You don't even remember much usually before you're 7 years old, and yet our programming has started really early in life and then may impact us for the rest of our lives unless we change it. So let's again look in a bit more detail. Family and friends. Of course, these are the people who should be filling us with positivity. What comments do they make? Are they always negative? Are they always seeing the downside of things, pulling you down? Again, is everything doom and gloom? Oh, all the whys and all the what ifs and all the this is horrendous, maybe even catastrophizing, making things seem so much worse than they are. Are they negative about you or others? Are they never finding the positive in anything or anyone? And some people do appear to thrive on negativity. They want gossip all the time. They want to know that others are struggling. They want to know all the bad things in life and not the good. And then we've got social media, which is a huge topic in itself. And what surprised me was actually that I'm not even aware of a lot of the social media that's available now. It's really hard to keep up with it because new apps are coming out all of the time. We're getting fed information from so many areas. And this means that social media does have a huge impact on our lives. And if we're constantly receiving negative information, and I do feel Facebook is a really big one for that, depending on how we allow that to happen. But if we are being fed a lot of negative information, that's all going to seep in and it's not going to be good for us. So you need to pay attention to what information is coming through your feed, because the things that you like, the things that you comment on, the things that you share, those are the things that will mean that similar things keep appearing on your feed. So for instance, I love animals and cats, so I'm constantly liking photos of cats and animals, other animals. I'm sharing pictures, particularly lost animals, and therefore my feed is full of animals, which I'm quite happy about. But if I was constantly commenting on negative posts and sharing those posts, well, then my feed would be full of a lot more negativity. So this is where we can start to take responsibility. What negativity are you feeding into? So just as I was talking about commenting on posts, are you also putting negativity out there? Are you making your posts on the downside, on the negative side? So again, it's an area you can change. You really can bring more positivity into your life and into the social media aspect of your life. You want to complain on social media because sometimes when something happens, the first thing we want to do is rant. And now, because we've got social media, which, 10 years ago, not so many people were using, and 20 years ago, I don't think there was any. But if we're complaining, we want everyone to know. So the first thing we do is we put it on social media. But let's face it, who really wants to know? People don't. They're getting on with their lives. And again, are you encouraging it? Because if you're commenting, if you're liking, then again, you're part of that negativity atmosphere. And again, social media can be that place where we just get into those petty arguments. And we don't feel good when we get into those petty arguments. It might mean we fall out with someone. It might mean that comments get misinterpreted. It's really bad for us. So again, take your arguments outside of social media and talk them through. Even texts and other apps, type anything where you're typing, even emails. The sentiment behind something can get misconstrued and create all sorts of problems and fallouts. So the best way to address any problems is talk them through. And I think also, really, whether it's social media or generally in life, one of the big lessons I've learned is what I'm prepared to put my energy into. Because actually sometimes you feel strongly about something. And if you feel really, really strongly about something, then by all means put your energy into it, but recognize that there may be an element of stress that comes back to you. So balance that up and think about that before you go full head on into something. But very often now, what I do is I make a decision that no, I don't need any hassle from that. If I comment on that, I'm probably going to get a whole load of negativity back. I don't really need that. So I often tend not to bother. Of course, what we must remember when it comes to news and in whatever format that comes to us is what we see and what we hear is really only a very small reflection of what is really happening in the world and life. Because remember, most of what you see and hear on the news is negative, whereas in effect, most people have a very average day. And in fact, some people have an extremely successful or exciting day. But on the whole, most of us just go about our day and it's very average. We know that bad news sells. We know also reporting is selective. They're going to pick the news stories that surprise you and shock you and horrify you because, again, that sells. They're not picking the nice, simple little stories about how a nice lady spoke to somebody who hadn't been spoken to for a week, and maybe an old lady who hadn't seen anyone for a week. They're not going to put that in the news because people don't particularly want to know about that. So they're going to put the big horrific stories in. And sadly, bad news is a business. It's a money-making industry. So we have to put everything into perspective. And the most horrific things that you're hearing on the news is in fact a tiny, tiny percentage of reality. And we must remember that there is a huge, huge amount of positivity going on in the world, really great things that people are doing. And that often does not get reported on. But if we start to like that positivity, for instance, on our news feed or search for it, it will be there. So colleagues, again, their energy and their behaviour can be very similar to friends and family. Is there somebody at your work who puts you down? Because again, that's going to put those negative thoughts in your mind. And also, you're going to hate going into work. It's going to pull your energy down. It's going to feel horrendous for you. Are they focusing on all the negative aspects of work? Because it's so easy to complain at work. It's so easy to put all of that negativity into work and to focus on the things that you don't like about an organisation. Now, I spent years working in an office in finance, and it's easy to find negative things, but actually you've got to look on things as a balance and look at all the really good things that you get from these places. So are your colleagues negative about others? That's not great. Again, it can create an atmosphere, or it can be very bitchy, really. Again, do those colleagues thrive on negativity? Because sadly, a lot of people do. Sometimes colleagues might be assertive, which effectively is fine because assertiveness and aggressiveness are two different areas. But if you've been bullied, you may find it very difficult to notice that fine line between assertiveness and aggressiveness. But if you struggle with a colleague in this way, you can tell them that you do find them rather assertive, or probably aggressive is the problem. Assertiveness sometimes has to be, but have a chat with them because they may not realize the effect they're having on you. So ourselves is the part we do have most of the control over. And as I've said, I've got my separate video on the inner voice, so you can watch that. So we do have much control over ourselves. We can start to take charge of that inner voice. We can start to decide who we have in our life, what aspects we have in our life, and create a more positive life. So are you being negative about yourself? Because if you are, that is one thing you can start to change by looking for the positives. And there will be lots of positives. If you're not sure, if you can't find those positives, speak to people who know you well and get them to help you with that. It may be something that I talk about at a later stage too. So again, keep following, because over time I'm going to build much more information on these subjects. So are you thriving on negativity? Are you one of those people that's enjoying that negativity? Because we can get into a rut with it. So just be aware of that if you are. Are you absorbing that negativity around you? Are you just taking it on and not really being conscious of doing that? So you can start now to be more conscious about it. Are you the one who's all about doom and gloom? Because it's easy to say it's all other people, but sometimes it's us too. And again, are you the one failing to appreciate the positive? It can be so hard, can't it, to acknowledge these things for ourselves? But, if I'm completely honest, my husband is such a positive person, and I feel compared to him, I'm really negative. I look on myself as a realist, but there are times when, particularly about myself, I can be more negative. So there are times when it's good to make that conscious effort to appreciate the positive and look for things that are good in life. Again, are you the one that's putting that negativity out there, or are you encouraging it in some way or another? So we all want to change, because if you've got this far in the video, I'm assuming that you really do want to change. So it is now time to take charge. So let's look at other people. If someone is negative about you, it does not necessarily make them right, because their response to you is a mirror of them and how they see things. It's a reflection of their own insecurities. I've known situations where someone may be being bullied, as an example, but it's the bully who has the problems and they're the insecure one. And this can happen in a work environment where someone's constantly critical of you. So in these situations, we have to recognize that that person's comments and their behavior is about them. It's not about you. If there's something for you to change about you, that's for you to recognize, not for somebody else to point out to you. So some easy steps to change. Let's unfollow anyone who is negative on social media. Now, I have done this. I had one lady who was putting little negative comments on some of my posts, and I knew that this was in a way an insecurity on her part. So actually this person I unfriended. I just thought, do you know what, I don't need you in my life, and I completely unfriended her. Now another person was just putting generally negative comments on, and I thought, I don't really need this in my life, so I just unfollowed her. So we're still friends on Facebook. It just means I don't see any of her posts. So she has no awareness that I've done that. I haven't watched the news since 2012. So the reason I stopped watching the news actually was I really loved watching the London Olympics. It was all over the television, and for whatever it was, 2 weeks, I think, we just watched the Olympics and nothing else. And at the end of that, when it came to get back to normality, I just didn't want to watch the news because I found it so negative and so pulled my energy down. Only spend time with friends that are positive and make you feel good. I think so often we feel obligated to spend our time with people that we don't really want to be with and to go to events we don't want to go to. And yet we should recognise that we do have choices in life and that we can say no. And in fact, once people get used to that, they'll be fine with you. It's just sometimes maybe the initial surprise that you're saying no to something, but think about what makes you feel good and know that you do have the choice and you can say no, thank you. Of course, you can say it in a very polite way. And if it feels better for you to make some excuse as to why you're not going, then do that. But you have an opportunity to feel better by spending time with the people that do enhance the way you feel and not drain you of positivity. And definitely do not get caught up in arguments, and especially on social media. Because when people are ranting on social media, they're not listening to other people. Everybody just wants to put their own view across. So really it makes your attempt to put your own view across quite pointless and fruitless. It's not going to achieve much. And all it's probably going to do is wind you up and upset you and maybe make you feel more anxious. Definitely do not take on negativity from others. It's based on their perceptives, on their opinions and their beliefs. That negativity has nothing to do with you. It's not about you. It's really good, I find, and this is maybe where we can use social media in a more positive way, is to follow inspirational people. I love things like the power of positivity. So follow things that have nice, positive messages for you and people who inspire you. Maybe people who achieve, people who can put a positive spin on things. Sometimes it makes us feel good to do something positive for someone else. I don't believe that we should rely on that as a way to feel good, but I think sometimes it can be just a very simple gesture to somebody. You know, it might be when you're waiting in a queue, you chat to that old lady or man in front of you, and maybe they've not really spoken to anyone for a week, and it's been the highlight of their week just to have a very normal conversation with a stranger. Or maybe you carry somebody shopping for them. These gestures don't need to be big, but it can make you feel like you're doing some good, and that can make you feel good. And definitely seek to put a positive spin on things. Now, gratitude is something that's talked about a lot, but there is no doubt that being grateful for the simple, small things in life can make you feel better. So why not do it? Again, it's not something that takes up more of your time, yet it can make you feel good. And again, it's putting more of that positivity in your mind. And the more positivity there is in your mind, the less room for anxiety there is. So we've talked, I think, a fair bit about stopping spending time with the people who really do drain you. Definitely do activities that make you feel good. And that feel good really shouldn't just be things about adrenaline. They should definitely include some relaxing things, particularly for anxiety sufferers. You don't want to keep adding more and more of those hyper hormones into your body. You want some nice calming things as well. But mix things up. And again, just seeking that positivity in situations. Sometimes when I'm in a really difficult situation or a really horrible situation, at the time there might not be much that I can take from it that's positive. But what I do say to myself is that in time I'll be able to look back and see something that helped me grow as a person, learn. It will maybe have strengthened me in some way. So you don't always know at the time, but later often you look back in life and you go, yeah, I understand why I had to deal with that. And I can certainly look back at the most challenging situations that I've had in my life, and I can really honestly say that I can take something from every single one of them and say, yeah, I know why I went through that. And I can use that in the future. It certainly has helped me in my role as a therapist, without a doubt. So just quickly, if you'd like to know more, my book, The Energy of Anxiety, explains about confronting that negativity and lots more information to help for anybody suffering from anxiety. And there's also a very comprehensive exercise section in there. So thanks for watching. I love making these videos. I hope you found it helpful, and just come back please and keep viewing them.